Revolution.Aero. My grandfather saw potential in aviation. He and his wingman, they're literally wing walker, Bud Gurney, thought that aviation could be more than just barnstorming and mail flights. And that inspiration, mixed with determination, led my grandfather to fly across the Atlantic in 1927 in pursuit of a prize. That determination, coupled with a little bit of risk management, because it was a nascent industry that was a little bit risky, created a radical shift in the way the public saw aviation and ushered in an age where we had really a golden era in aviation that could be used for transportation and commercial purposes. Really the long-distance air transportation era. In 2002, I sort of had my own evolution of spirit, if you will, and retraced my grandfather's flights from New York to Paris, actually from San Diego to St. Louis, New York, and then to Paris in a small single-engine aircraft, a 17-hour flight, all to raise money and awareness for the future of flight in partnership with the X Prize Foundation. The future of flight, realizing that wings and propellers could only carry us so far, and that spaceflight was the next step in transportation. It worked. I achieved the prime directive. I survived the flight from New York to Paris. My first trip to France, my first trip to Europe, and I can tell you that is not a French kiss. That's some old tarmac there at Le Bourget. But you can thank this man for changing the world's expectations on flight. And I don't mean my grandfather on the left, I mean the guy on the right. His name is Raymond Ortigue. In 1919, he put up a $25,000 prize offered to the first nonstop trip between the cities of New York and Paris in either direction. And a funny thing happened as a result of that prize, or prize philanthropy. 7 teams spent $400,000 trying to win a $25,000 prize. And all of that leverage, all of that research and development leveraged long-distance air travel. People forget that aviation was developed primarily by 2 things: warfare and prizes. Now, looking at that prize philanthropy model of developing a new industry, in 1996, under the arch in St. Louis, you'll notice that the logo there in the eyeball echoes the arch. We announced, along with 20 astronauts and the head of NASA, a new prize, the largest cash prize in history, $10 million, to be awarded to the first private manned space program that could carry 3 people into space, return safely, and do it again within 2 weeks. This too was successful. My flight across the Atlantic leveraged it, raised $1 million, $500 million media impressions, all towards the X Prize and the future of flight, and it worked. In 2004, 15 years ago, Spaceship One took off out of the desert in Mojave, flew up to 62 miles, 100 kilometers, or 328,000 feet, the first private manned space program. And that ushered in, it really changed the way the world thinks about spaceflight. And today we have an industry that's growing. Spaceflight is tough, it's expensive, but we now have Blue Origin, SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, all vying to sell you tickets to fly into space. It worked. It was incredibly empowering to be a part of a small group of people who really changed the world's expectations on spaceflight. And led all of us to ask ourselves, how do we do that again? I'm not really a rocket scientist. I'm an aviation guy. And so I set my sights back on aviation. What are the threats that we face? And how do we use different levers, different tools like prize philanthropy to try to solve the threats that we're facing in aviation? That led me to electric propulsion. 11 years ago, I really realized that this could solve noise issues. It could be cheaper. It could be cleaner. And so I'm not an engineer either, but I thought, oh, let's give prizes for demonstrating excellence in the field of electric propulsion. Over the years, we've given 11 Lindbergh electric aircraft prizes, and some of these designs were absolutely crazy. My friend Jonathan Hartman from Sikorsky, when we showed him this picture of the first eVolo prototype, he said, oh, that kind of looks like one of those videos on YouTube, the frog in the blender thing. Nice visualization. But this industry is evolving, and they've got a much safer looking aircraft now, and I think they've raised well over $50 million and are flying their eVTOL flying car design now. So during that period, over the last 10 years, we started a program down at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University to have students design and build an electric aircraft, an E-Spirit of St. Louis, if you will. We're almost done with it. It's taken a lot longer than we thought. But along this process, I teamed up with Dr. Pat Anderson, who runs the Eagle Flight Research Center, and Erik, who is here with us today, because we realized we had all the technology to build our own eVTOL, urban air mobility vehicle. So we started a company called Vertigo Aero, and our goal is to power the electric flight revolution. We do that by building propulsion systems that we can sell to those 252 or whatever companies that are going to need help, because this is not an easy industry. Our integrated distributed electric propulsion systems use, at the moment, certified Jet A diesel engines provided by our strategic investor, Continental Aerospace Technologies. It's been 100 years building engines and certified engines. These are going to be quieter, cheaper, more scalable than turbines. They'll be energy rich. So you can make 4 trips across the city plus FAA reserves and then fly out to existing infrastructure to refuel. And you can design your eVTOL aircraft for 800 watt-hours per kilogram or 1,000 watt-hours per kilogram. So you have that capability during peak traffic times to actually make money using today's technology. And when batteries finally do make it to that high energy density level that you need, that you've planned for, you can upgrade to all electric. That's a pathway to success in this industry. I loved Kristen's opening downer presentation because it fits right into our business model. And let me explain one other reason why we chose a hybrid system. And that is that batteries need to be very efficient because you're not going to have as much power on board. Batteries just don't have the energy density. Most people know that much of the noise is created by your propeller tips or rotor tip speeds. And if you have extra power, you can actually throw that power and have a higher torque setting and less noise. So we can throw power at noise, noise being one of the greatest barriers to scalability in this industry. And we can do that with our hybrid propulsion systems. So organizing the industry, our company, around three areas and lines of business. Of course, our propulsion systems. We're happy to talk to you if you're building an aircraft or if you've invested in an aircraft company and you're a little worried about their all-electric system or their hybrid electric system. We can help you. We've been doing market and strategic analysis and have the proprietary engineering tools to reverse engineer or help people vet companies that they're interested in investing in. And we've been doing that. We have multiple customers now. I mentioned strategic partners in Continental Aerospace Technologies and Sire Industries, a Tier 1 certified manufacturer. And we're lining up more. So we feel very strongly about our position in this market, becoming the backbone of this industry. Did I mention we made a profit already? That's pretty cool. Especially in this industry with a lot of competition and some valley of doom. that everyone keeps talking about, because there isn't room for this many companies. So now I'd like to switch from my company to my cause. And this is a cause that I really think the aviation industry needs to pay attention to. 42 years ago, friends of my grandparents, Neil Armstrong, Jimmy Doolittle, and others in the aviation industry, started the Charles A. and Ann Morrow Lindbergh Foundation to forward my grandparents' vision of balancing advancing technology with preservation of the environment, so that our quality of life could be maintained, because my grandparents saw from flying over the country, and indeed the world, from the 30s to the 70s, that our technology could harm our quality of life, and that we need that balance. We are shaping the future, and we're continuing to do that, and I'm really excited, just like the backers of my grandfather's flight, the Spirit of St. Louis organization. We have been running programs. You may know us for an Air Shepherd program that we ran over the last 5 years. We have now spun it off, but this was using drones to stop rhino and elephant poaching in Africa. We got the first permissions to fly beyond visual line of sight and night flights, and where we flew, the poaching stopped. We have now spun that program off to another organization, and I'm proud to, if I can get this to work, announce we're 7 years away from the 100th anniversary of my grandfather's flight. That's going to be a momentous milestone in aviation history. Before my grandfather flew across the Atlantic, people who flew in airplanes were called barnstormers and daredevils and flying fools. And after he flew across the Atlantic, people who flew in airplanes were called pilots and passengers. And the commercial uses of aviation dramatically took off. So this is a campaign to address the threats that we see coming in aviation. We're going to decarbonize, starting from the bottom up, aviation, and do radical noise reduction. Those are the biggest threats we see. And we can do that by inspiring students, enabling entrepreneurs, rewarding achievements and demonstrations, and spurring innovation through a carefully designed mix of prizes, education programs, races, our innovation forum talks, and awards for people who are leading these industries. Super excited about our education program that we've developed and are running at the Museum of Flight in Seattle, and Science Olympiad, starting to scale that, and we'd like to go global. This is where kids from middle school to high school design, build, and fly an electric airplane on a tether, so it removes some of the 3D difficulty, and then carry out specific tasks like carrying more weight, which is an awesome thing to behold when you see kids flying and adding more weight and crashing their airplanes and then rebuilding in rapid iteration and collaborating together. It's an incredible program that gets kids, especially girls, in that sort of sixth to eighth grade level invested in STEM education. We've also been running the Lindbergh Innovation Forum at Oshkosh AirVenture, at Aero Friedrichshafen in Germany, at AIAA, and we're planning more of those in different locations at air shows around the world. Talks on leading edge applications for aerospace, and we've had quite a few of the folks attending here as speakers. You can see this on our website, Lindbergh.Aero. If you're interested in battery development, look up Don Hillebrand's talk. He's the Energy Systems Director at Argonne National Labs. Extraordinary if you want to know about the state-of-the-art of battery development. And I'd like to share a little video with you. Hopefully I can get this to play, or maybe you can. Let me try it. Nope. Gave it away. Can you make that go? Thank you.
Almost 100 years ago, on a dark morning that seemed to hold no promise, a small plane was getting ready for takeoff on a muddy field in New York. The plane was heavy with fuel and the runway was soft, so people pushed. The plane moved slowly. As it struggled, the people kept pushing. The plane gathered momentum. The people kept pushing. Finally, the plane moved faster than they could run. They let it go. Charles Lindbergh was on his way to Paris, and a whole new era of human life on this planet had begun. At the Lindbergh Foundation, we know great dreams can come true, and that even on the darkest mornings, that promise remains. So in honor of the 100th anniversary of the flight that gave wings to us all, this foundation will be like the people who pushed that little plane toward the sky. Our dream is to help lift hopes of a better tomorrow out of the mud and set them on their valiant way.
Now, speaking about dragging us out of the mud, has anybody noticed the flight shaming articles, front page headlines on BBC News, etc.? Aviation is being dragged through the mud. Quite frankly, I see it as a big threat, and I love flying. I don't want to give it up. And I think we're smart enough to be able to come up with the solutions, incentivize the crowd for solutions to that, and as we educate that next generation, they can implement those solutions so that we can continue to fly and maintain the freedom that we have in this country and in the world that aviation gives us. One of the things that we're noodling with or really investigating is how can we make the most impact on this industry with the 100th anniversary. And we're investigating offering a zero carbon New York to Paris prize. We've got to start somewhere. How do we do this? The thoughts are, okay, it has to be practical because Solar Impulse did this, but it was a very impractical airplane. Maybe if it carried 4 passengers from New York to Paris, nonstop, under 16 hours. So roughly half the time that it took my grandfather to fly. Is that a good idea? Can you help us refine that? We'd love to talk to you because we'd like to offer that and have a concrete pathway towards a sustainable industry over the next 7 years to the 100th anniversary. We're now putting together that super credibility, if you will, and lining up partnering institutions, not only from San Diego to St. Louis to New York and Paris, but globally, who want to see this happen. Individual donors have been donating $10,580, the amount that the Spirit cost in 1927, to seed this campaign because we want it to have global impact. And corporate sponsors, of course, who want to participate in this 100th anniversary campaign over the next 7 years, which will reach a crescendo. And I imagine we'll be able to fly from New York to Paris this time in an electric aircraft. I think it'll be a hybrid. But I want to go there. I want to be there. I want to be sitting in the left seat driving this industry, because if we don't, someone else will dictate what aviation looks like, and that's not acceptable to me. So I want to go to Paris. I want to fly electric, if possible. If not, I will go commercial. But I want to have you come along, have you join. Thank you so much. Do we have time for any questions, or?
You've got questions. I'd love to join you in Paris in 2020.
Yes.
No, but due to Brexit, I probably won't be able to. We have some questions from the audience. And also, could we put Slido live? We're putting the poll. Someone has asked, this is about Vertigo, could you tell us more about your proprietary analysis software in Vertigo Aviation?
Yes, actually I'm the wrong guy, but Erik, who's standing in the back, has actually used it, is familiar with it. We've got both NASA technology and our own proprietary technology, and the engineers to reverse engineer designs, understand how our propulsion system fits into your design, and can really understand exactly what the needs of your aircraft are, or help you decide whether or not this is a good company you're vetting for investment. We can help you with that. That's part of our business model. And our propulsion systems, if you want to put those in your aircraft, are, let me just say, optimized, because you can buy equipment off the shelf, but it's not necessarily optimized or really compatible. And that's exactly what we're looking at. Our engineers from Dr. Anderson at Embry-Riddle Eagle Flight Research Center is really good at seeing what this industry needs 3 years out in the future, and coming up with the solutions that we can provide to our customers.
Okay, another question. What battery development project excites you the most? When could we see all electric aviation?
I can't talk about that. I'll say on our Lindbergh Foundation site, we've got Lindbergh.Aero. You can see Dr. Hillebrand talk about battery chemistries and about the future and the development and the actual rate of development in battery energy density of batteries.
For those
I'll
of
say
you
that a
who
lot of people
dreamed
are making bets around some conservative technologies that are armored and heavy and maybe useful for commercial purposes, and we're eyeing technology and working with folks that have, we think, breakthrough technology for various reasons, but we can't talk about it yet.
Okay. Are you open to energy systems beyond solely electric, i.e. hydrogen and nuclear fusion?
Yes, in fact, we're working with a customer doing a hydrogen study now. So I mentioned we're profitable. Part of that is because we're doing that analysis and consulting work, and we are doing a hydrogen study. What was the other question? Nuclear? I don't think yet. No.
Nuclear fusion.
No. Well, we get pitches every week or so about alternative energy, and we've got some dialogue going with a fusion company. I'm going to see one of the principals in that in 2 weeks at the X Prize Visioneering Conference. We're happy to talk, but we're not sure about that one.
Okay. You've got lots of questions. Should governments legislate more and incentivize in order to spur environmentally related tech?
Well, I mean, I think we're smart enough to do just about anything on this planet. The question is, do we have the will? And the government could help provide that, both with incentives. X Prize, we used Prize Philanthropy, revived that as a modality to develop industry. Government said, oh, let's do that. Let's do NASA Centennial Challenges. And Stargin is now running the new NASA challenge. I'm forgetting, Mobility Challenge. We need that kind of support, and we need money. So all of these things can be accelerated, and we're smart enough, but we have to apply ourselves, and that's the key. I mean, we're developing a urban air mobility vehicle that's using a hybrid technology because batteries aren't there yet. We think it'll be there, but 10 or 15 years from now, ready, scalable, certified. This is our solution to getting operational and data sets until they're ready.
Any questions from the audience? Final question. With one of the pathways, I think this is of sustainable jet fuel, there is now zero carbon emission through the life cycle. Are you looking at promoting sustainable aviation fuel?
Well, I think we don't know how long it's going to take to electrify airline transport category aircraft, if it is indeed ever possible. So, I think the best solution that I've heard so far is growing algae or something and using that as a more sustainable fuel. I haven't seen anything else other than, maybe if the fusion works, we could do flight that way, but that's a big question mark.
Okay, and finally, 97% of the audience thinks there should be a a zero carbon New York to Paris Lindbergh Prize.
Okay,
I don't know why the 3% person is,
97%. The key is we need support, and happy to talk to you if you want to join us in this quest. It's a worthy quest. I love aviation. My whole family has been in it for 100 years, more or less, and I don't want to give it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.